Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 95 in the book of the Gospel of John. So now that has been raised, we see the focus of Jesus' teaching kind of change. It becomes more cross-focused and leaving focused and final teaching focused. So yesterday he talked about that maximal fruitfulness in our life is sometimes conditioned upon death. And death itself determines fruitfulness. And then if you kiss the next world, it changes everything about this world. And making yourself nothing for him makes you the most pleasing to him. And if all you ever said was that all I ever needed to know about Jesus was in the great week, the final week of his life, it's not perfectly true, but that's a great place to start. There's so much here in the last week of Jesus' life. Here's some for today. John 12, verse 27. Now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? ? But for this purpose I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Then a voice from heaven, I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. The crowd that stood there and heard it said that it thundered. Others said, an angel has spoken to him. Jesus answered, this voice has come for your sake, not mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now will the ruler of this world be cast out. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. So I'm going to notice four things here today. The first thing I noticed is his humanity. He says, my soul is troubled. Well, why would that be? Well, because of the pain and suffering that is in front of him in the next couple of days. And he asks in a human way, should I pray to get rid of this? And he says, no, for this purpose I have come to this hour. Rather be glorified, Father. So this is peak Savior. This is peak Jesus. This is peak Father. And in addition to that, not only is he going to suffer himself, he's going to watch other people suffer. He knows that 100% of his disciples fall away. He knows this. They abandon, they run away. And that's got to trouble Jesus, at least at the start, that all of his closest followers are going to fail him this very week. So that's got to be nothing pleasant to look forward to. And I think here he knows that he's going to suffer and his people are going to suffer, and both are troubling. So the first thing I noticed is his humanity. The second thing I noticed is his unity with the Father. So Jesus is all about oneness with the Father and soon the Spirit, and it's depicted here verbally by the voice of God for our sake. So the Father cracks into this world, our world, in a way that we can hear and understand. Now, that's not a very frequent thing in the world, and we best pay attention when it happens. So it emphasizes the unity of Father and Son to this purpose that's ahead of Jesus. So both the Father and Son sacrifice severely. So Jesus lays down his life, and the Father offers the Son to satisfy justice. And God is in this glory business, and that's perfectly appropriate when it's all said and done. He should be in the glory business. If you are God, to be anything else would be blasphemy. So he is worthy. He should do glory and receive it from us. All right, the third thing I notice is his purposefulness. And we are on a one-way street to the cross and the accomplishing of the heavy business there. He says, it's for this hour, for this purpose I have come. Now is the judgment of the world. The rule of the world is judged and known perfectly. So it's no surprise. He's a liar, he's a murderer, he's a deceiver. But now judgment is officially pronounced. So now is the casting out of the ruler of the world. Colossians 2 says he disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them. 1 John 3, the reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil. Now, this is written in the future passive verb tense. So it really means I will be thrown out, referring to a definitive event that's still in the future. So he says, now I am to be lifted up, indicating that the cross was no surprise. And this statement is proleptic, in other words, anticipatory or future referring. So Satan is going to lose all authority. We just don't quite see it just yet. So the principle is true, and the reality is coming. So crucifixion marks the beginning of the end for Satan. So the Lord has big work to do on the cross. in this process. And one of them is going to be to cast out the ruler of the world. And it's epic and it is sure. It's powerful, and in a sense, for the Lord, it's easy. So when God decides to exert his power, Satan and evil will obey. So recently we did a podcast on the loyal obedience of death. It's the same concept here. When the Creator has a command, there's no real argument from death. There's no fuss. There's no fight. And similarly here, when God's going to speak authoritatively, Satan is going to answer faithfully, or probably a better way to say it is to obey faithfully. And how hard will it be? I love the passage in 2 Thessalonians, I refer to it a lot, 2:8. And then the lawless one will be revealed, with whom the Lord Jesus will kill with the breath of his mouth, and bring to nothing by the appearance of his coming. So the Lord has this down, and how hard is it going to be for him to, breath of his mouth. All right, and then the last thing I notice is the Lord's invitation, and his gentle invitation. So now, he says, now I am to draw all men and women to myself. So on one hand, he's dealing with evil and death and judgment, all this the evil dark forces. And on the other hand, he attracts people to himself like a parent. He's pulling them in by invitation. He's leading them to the Savior by both his power and his purposes. So perhaps, as we close here today, let's think. He says, I'm going to draw all people after I'm done with the cross. And maybe that's going to start with you today. Thanks for listening.